Are you getting contacts from multiple sources that you're calling through PhoneBurner? And if so, are you making sure that you're applying a source on import, or if you're using the API, that you're adding a source ID for every record that comes through the API? Now, of course, if you're buying leads from a lead vendor and that lead vendor is posting leads to your account automatically for you, then they're already getting tagged with a source. Maybe you're using something like Zapier to feed data into PhoneBurner. Make sure you're using a source. If not, you're missing out on some valuable insights regarding each and every one of those leads. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how you can build a custom source report. This is another video in our reports-based training module. And I want to remind you, if you haven't watched all of the other videos, you should watch them. But we did talk about a standard report called Leads by Source. So if you go to your report section, you'll see that option, Leads by Source. This specific option, this standard report, tells you how many records were created in the system with a specific source during whatever date range you're looking at. However, that's only part of the story. How many records came into the system just tells you if you got what you paid for, right? Did you get leads or not from a specific vendor? But how good were those leads? That's what we're going to talk about today. And a custom report, a custom source report, is going to help you start to dig into the details specific to each and every source that you're getting data from. So again, if you're getting leads from specific sources or different sources, make sure that every lead, every record coming into your account has a source applied to it. So let's create a custom source report. In the upper right-hand portion of the page, I'm going to click on Add Report. From there, I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it New Source Report, and I'm going to skip the description because, again, I am lazy. Report type, we're going to change this from Member Detail to Source Summary because that's the type of report we want. And you'll notice some of our options disappear because when it's a Source Summary report, there are things that we just don't need to worry about. But we do need to set a default date range. So because this is a demo account, I'm going to set my default date range to the last 365 days. However, for you, it might be different. You might want to look at today, yesterday, last week, Monday through Friday, last month, the last 7 days, 30, 60, 90, whatever that might be, or year to date, right? There's lots of options listed here. You make the decision on what you want your default date range to be, but just know, once you load the report, you can always change that date range. So again, I'm going to set mine to the last 365 and save. Now, once I save the report, now I get to start to build things out. So over on the left-hand side, I'm going to click on the Fields option. And this is where I choose which fields I want to have included in this report. So if I'm tracking my contacts by source, then I want to know, are those leads getting called? So I want total calls by source. I want to know how many of those leads my team is talking to. So I want to include total talks. Average talk time, that may be valuable information for me. Email sent, I probably don't care about that in this particular case, so let's delete that by clicking on the little trash can icon. But more importantly, I probably want to know how many of these result in booked appointments. So let's go to Type and choose Disposition and choose the dispositions that we care about, like booked appointment, APTs. Maybe include that in the summary or not. Hit save, probably not because it's not relevant. You know, we don't want to necessarily see it across all sources. We want it broken down by source. So add new field. Let's do not interested. Disposition, not interested is in here somewhere. Hit save. We're going to add another new field, maybe follow-up, like how many calls result in a follow-up. That's good, right? We want to know how many of those happen. Disposition and follow-up. do not call, probably really good when it comes to a source. How many of these result in do not calls? Because that's crappy. And save. And then bad numbers, probably a really good one for us to include here. All right, so most of this source report information, in my opinion, is going to be disposition based, right? We want to know when we get contacts from a specific source, what are the dispositions looking like, right? How does that work? But we'll kind of play around with some stuff, but this is what we're going to focus on right now. When it comes to seats, again, not going to really matter for the most part here, right? Because it's a source summary, but we could potentially include or exclude specific users so that we're not seeing their call activity. But 90% of the time when it comes to a source, I want to know what's happening with that source across the board. So I want to include all of my team members. Email delivery, I might want to get emailed daily, weekly, or monthly about this specific report. And hopefully you've seen some of the other videos where I've talked about email delivery in more depth, but I do just real quickly want to point out that when you're choosing delivery options, daily is a daily email with yesterday's activity. Weekly, you're choosing a specific day of the week to receive the previous 7 days worth of activity. So you'd add this email delivery multiple times if you want to receive a 7-day activity multiple times throughout the week. And same with monthly. You choose a day of the month you want to receive it, and you get the previous 30 days worth of activity. But again, I'm not going to add any email delivery on this specific report. I'm just going to create this report, which we have done. Now let's go to the Reports tab. Let's go to the new source report in our custom report section. It's going to load the previous 365 days, and it's going to list out every one of our sources and what happened with the contacts in there. Of course, we're not seeing exactly how many contacts were added, but we're able to see how effective any individual source is, right? So this is what we want to look at. If we've all got limited amount of money, right? We don't, well, some of you might have unlimited. I don't. We don't, right? So we're very careful about our budget. And so when it comes to where you spend money, where you're getting leads from, whether you're buying leads from a vendor or you're advertising on specific websites, you want to track that source. You want to track those so that you can see how effective any one of those sources is. And PhoneBurner makes it easy for you to track sources. But now you can come in here and you can go, okay, well, we made X number of calls, and those calls resulted in X number of conversations. And so you might want to have a connect rate in here as well. So we may change average talk time to a connect rate, a percentage. And then, okay, how many of those resulted in appointments? How many of those were not interested? How many of those were follow-ups? How many of those were do not calls? How many of those were bad numbers, right? We want to see how effective any one vendor is. And if somebody's better, like here, for example, Connect score, out of 96 talks, 61 of them resulted in appointments versus 84 talks and 36. So it's almost twice as good, or probably twice as good. Now, obviously, this is demo data, so don't take too much out of that. But you get what I'm saying. You're able to start to compare one source to another so you can see which one you should focus on and which one you should potentially abandon. So with that being said, let's go ahead and make a couple changes here. So average talk time, I'm like, yeah, you know, that's all right, but I really want to know what my connection percentage is. So let's go and edit the report. Click on fields. And let's change average talk time to percentage of connected calls. And let's do the field label. And save. Now let's go back to that report. So look at this. When we really start to break it down by source, now you can see, oh man, we're connecting 95% of the time with this specific source. Let's buy a ton from vendor one, right? Let's double down on that one. 29%, 33%. You see what I'm saying? You can really start to drill into it. But again, if you connect with 95% of them, but 100% of them are not interested or do not call, then that's not a good vendor. So you got to take all of these data points into account when you're considering a lead vendor, a source. How effective is it start to finish, from beginning to end? Speaking of beginning to end, we may want to see how many of these contacts actually end up in our closed won folder, right? So let's go ahead and edit the report. Go to fields, go to add new field, and let's add our closed won folder here. Folder, closed won, hit save. Go back to reports, new source report. And that's what really matters, right? You want to know how many of these people actually result in closed business. So anyway, that is a quick little overview of the source report option here in PhoneBurner. I hope you're taking advantage of source options when you're adding contacts to the system, whether importing or you're bringing data over through the API, through Zapier, through lead vendors. Because if you'll do that, you can really, really start to hone in on what sources are producing results for you and your team. So thanks for taking a moment to watch this video. I hope this helps you and your organization get more done in less time, connect with more people, and more importantly, close more deals. Thanks again, and happy dialing.